So the first time I encountered Jimi was at Tina's in Dundee. We were having dinner and didn't know him, but was just having dinner with some friends. And David from Tina's came to my table and said, "Hey, this guy down there at this table is going to interview with you tomorrow for a job at Winery." And I looked around and there was this big monster guy, at least he looked to me like very massive, with his black KGB coat. I found out afterwards there was an old KGB coat, but anyway, very impressive guy. And so I know that I think I shook his hand and just said hi that night. And so that was the first encounter I ever had. And obviously the next day he came for the interview, and we hired him from that day on. So that was my first meeting with Jimi. So Jimi had just come back from Europe, obviously Poland with Soléna, and also had spent some time in the Beaujolais region. So he had worked in making wine in the Beaujolais region. So he was talking a lot about his prior experience, but he was just so eager to learn everything. And we were a very small team. Essentially, it was Jimi and I that made all the wine at Winery. That was it. So obviously he was doing all the work, and we were both doing all the work that needed to be done. So the first year, I think he just threw himself full blast into every aspect of winemaking, because he was involved in everything from the lab to cleaning the tanks to making wine and tasting and topping barrels and bottling and the whole thing. What impact did Brooks under Jimi have? Jimi was just so vivacious and so vibrant and so fun. I think it was just wonderful for all of us to see him succeed and becoming his own brand. At the same time, I think from the outside he made some great connection with a few wholesalers that just thought that he was doing something really unique and special. So I'm not sure if any of us have a dramatic impact on the whole industry, but certainly he was a great part of it, and was on the path to creating something quite special. Well, Jimi passed on September 4th, and that's my birthday, so that was obviously a very challenging day. Sorry. But the day before, I just remember the last nice time that we had together, which was this trip to Seattle, where we actually spent 2 days together, just in a car most of the time, and then selling wine and just having a fun time during dinners and so on. So this is my greatest time before memory. And then after, of course, I think all of us rallied around Janie to help her out, make sure that the wines were going to be taken care of. But this was, making wine under those conditions was the least we can do, and certainly the easiest thing we had to do. It was it's sink or swim. You just do it. There were a lot of people that showed up to Oregon to make wine with the intent of making the greatest wine possible. First creating an estate vineyard, and then making wine from that estate. So if you think about Beaufrere, Christum, Archery Summit, Winery, all of those properties were designed on the estate concept. So we first started planting our vineyards, and then we made wine. So that's what I think Jimi came right in the middle of. Having lunch with him was probably the most exciting. When we were both at Winery, we had a very small group of us working. When you put everybody together, it was 5 of us. And so we cooked lunch for each other every day. So 5 days in the 5 working days in the week. And so instead of cooking your lunch 5 days, you only had to cook lunch once, but you cooked it for 5. And the rest of the time you ate with everybody else. And Jimi was a wonderful cook and really had a good talent with improvising with all the different meats that he liked. And so we had a wonderful time at lunchtime when he was cooking, and hopefully when I was cooking too. It's just, to me, the memory is just looking at both of their faces, and when you see Pascal, you see Jimi, just the round face, the round smile, the beautiful smile. So to me, just seeing those two faces together is one of the great things that I like to remember about both of them. He was just greater than life. He had amazing ability to talk about every subject, and most people were intimidated by his physics at first, because he was a very impressive football player, and didn't think that behind all this muscles were such a delicate and wonderful brain. So he was just somebody that you really enjoy having a conversation with. So he made a lot of great friends, and I think that's why his legacy carries on.